Hi, Don Garbutt here. I'd like to show you a plugin that I've used on several projects. This is the Sugar Bytes Guitarist. This instrument comes as a standalone or Audio Units VST RTAS plugin. And although tasteful guitar playing is a thing of beauty, this instrument still has a lot to offer with its intuitive interface and deep programmability. The settings panel allows you to choose your guitar from Duesenberg Star Players, Tele, or Strat. Your host software will store and recall the guitar choice, but the presets in Guitarist don't. Global presets allow you to call up or save combinations of sound settings, chord constructions, and performance patterns. There's a large library of these presets, and of course you can store your own creations in these categories. The effects department includes an amp simulator, 2 multi-effects processors, and an interesting auto-wah processor, which has an LFO that can be sensitive to the accents in your patterns. The patterns section works like a step sequencer, where you can set up your event triggers. Although there are only 16 steps, you can activate different patterns by MIDI keys. The keyboard is split at C3. Notes below C3 are set up to trigger chords, and notes above C3 are set up to trigger patterns of chord changes. It's important to note here that changing chords below C3 does not change the pattern. Notes above C3 are for pattern selection by MIDI. This is the most important part of working with Guitarist. Selecting a pattern controls the choice of all these elements: the trigger accent pattern, the number of strings playing on each stroke, the number of steps in the accent pattern. There are 3 different types of styles of notes: a muted note, a dead note, and a ringing out note. You've got different types of pitch variation when the string plays, different types of strum speeds, including a double strum event, the ability to stop a note, so a ringing out note will actually stop at the next spot or even stop right on its own spot. Here you can control the up or the down direction for each stroke in the pattern. This is what makes your guitar pattern sound natural. I'm going to combine this pattern with a little listen to the auto wah feature. And down here, this is the critical part. What you've got down here is the chord pattern sequencer. To start with, you can select a key, or you can go to the chord memory bar, where you can select major chords, 6/7, major 7ths, 9ths, minor chords, minor 6ths, minor 7ths, augmented, diminished, suspended chords, 3 different positional variations of those chords on the neck, and 24 chords that you can create yourself and store in this area. This is often how I like to work because I like to be able to create the chords on the guitar, including impossible chords to play like that one. And that's where a little bit of guitar knowledge comes in pretty handy here. At first, reading the guitar takes a little bit of getting used to, but this is basically the open string. If I wanted all open strings, I would just set this here. And then you can see that the strings make sense. If you wanted to create a G chord, that would be it there. Or you can go back to the chord selection area and just choose, for instance, a power chord in D. This category allows you to select how many strokes that chord will play before moving on to the next step in this sequencer. This example shows a 4-bar sequence. The chords chosen for this sequence have been chosen from the chord palette, or chord board as it's called. Although you have 24 chords, you can actually design each of these chords yourself by selecting the chord number and adjusting the chord notes accordingly. When you choose a chord from the chord palette, you get this indicator right here. Otherwise, if I chose a chord, say a power chord, I'd be able to choose the key of that power chord here. But when we choose one of the numbered chords, then this is the indicator right here. The tempo value determines the musical length of the steps. Although changing patterns doesn't change this value, you can use Midi Learn with the right click or control click to control changes in this value from a controller on your keyboard. You'll notice that each pattern has its own unique number of steps and chords, plus the fact that the characteristics of the pattern will change as each pattern switches. probably noticed all the parameter changes that happened as the pattern shifts were controlled from the MIDI keyboard. There's also a song mode, which enables you to activate your patterns in a sequence. This is very handy for using the standalone program and playing live. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Stay tuned for part 2 on the Sugar Bytes Guitarist.